This is the second in the series of FICCI's B4E series, a Business for Environment webinar series we have started this year. After the first webinar that led deliberations on recycling as the seventh resource for future economy, we are back with another facet of business for environment. We know that business and environment are closely intertwined and are in a perpetual state of give and take. Businesses rely on genetic biodiversity and ecosystem services as critical inputs to their production processes and depend on healthy ecosystems to manage waste and maintain other resources. As per the World Economic Forum, more than half of the global total GDP relies on nature and its services. And so hence it makes it vulnerable to nature loss. This presents us both systematic risk and development opportunities for businesses. A growing awareness of this double materiality of the situation is leading businesses to measure and manage the associated risk. The intrinsic dependency of business on biodiversity for value and resilience makes it crucial for long-term sustainability. Industry understands that a well-conditioned environmental ecosystem is necessary for an uncompromised supply of economic and social services, as well as for the capacity of service supply. Industry, in collaboration with all the stakeholders, including the government, is taking a lead in biodiversity conservation and management, and is increasingly becoming an agent of change, innovating and helping to create ecosystem-friendly markets and developing more sustainable technologies and business practices. In this regard, this webinar will discuss upon ways to deliver positive outcomes for biodiversity through prioritization of actions around impact mitigation and nature-smart investments, as well as focus on potential approaches in sourcing and supply chains, which can benefit businesses for long-term sustainability. The numerous initiatives being undertaken by corporations to prioritize impact mitigation and nature-smart investments with a particular focus on biodiversity are reassuring. I'm certain that today's webinar will shed light on some of these initiatives, as well as solutions that can be provided to foster an ecosystem that facilitates the coexistence of business and biodiversity for long-term sustainability. So with that, I welcome our distinguished panelists for the webinar. And we have with us Dr. Jain Tata, Director, Scientific and Regulatory Affairs, India, Southwest Asia, Coca Cola. Ms. Renika Gover, Head Sustainability and CSR, Apollo Tyres. Mr. Raju Kapoor, Director, Public and Industry Affairs, FMC India. We have Mr. Harshal Limdi, General Manager and Head of Environment and Biodiversity, JSW Group. And we have Dr. Hishmi Jamil Hussain, Head Biodiversity, Corporate Sustainability, Tata Steel Limited. We are also hoping Ms. Anupam Nidhi, Head CSR, Hindustan Zinc, to join us shortly. She had an urgent commitment come up. So with that, I would request Dr. Dobriyal for his initial remarks and moderating the discussions, please. Over to you, Dr. Dobriyal.
Thank you, Asim. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Asim has already introduced me. I'm Rajendra Dobriyal. I work for Coca Cola, but I also co-chair the Biodiversity Subcommittee and Environment Committee of FICCI. So, I mean, I was just thinking, I was going back a few decades and I was just thinking when biodiversity became the first time buzzword in India, somewhere in late 80s, early 90s. And at that time, forget about the industry, even the government executives were not able to understand the word biodiversity. What does it mean? Now today, at least almost every significant corporate world in India has one or the other program on biodiversity. And that really gives me a sense of, like we are on a right path. Maybe we have to do a little more, but at least we are on the right path. And probably, for last 4 decades, we have really done some progress from business perspective in terms of understanding the biodiversity, integrating the biodiversity in the businesses, and also, not only just the biotic factor of the biodiversity, but also understanding the abiotic factor of biodiversity. And no matter which sector you go in India, while, economy is growing and we have all companies have pressure to, on business numbers and all of us doing our bit to manage the biodiversity. Of course, whether, we can ask ourselves, is there a need to do more? Of course, there's a need to do more, but at least all of us have initiated in all the sectors, something or the other. For the interest of, people in the audience, let me just give a sense of like, what is the kind of relationship between business and biodiversity And I would say it is quite complex. As the word biodiversity itself is quite complex. And when we add the abiotic factor into biotic factor, it becomes much more complex. Not even going at a genetic level, and even if we keep at a population level, it is quite complex for businesses to understand and then integrate into biodiversity, and then integrate into our management systems. But I think broadly we can describe the interaction of businesses in two parts. One is the impact part, and on the dependence part. So businesses have a very significant impact on biodiversity. I don't think I need to emphasize that. Our operations, our supply chain, our overall consumption patterns. So obviously there are certain things, which are dependence, and some people may call them as negative factors, which may include the, habitat destruction, pollutions, over exploitation, climate change, which all contribute to loss of biodiversity in one or the other way. But there are other aspects also. And businesses also play a very positive role in protecting and enhancing biodiversity through sustainable practices, through sustainable ways, which we have already integrated in doing the way we do our businesses and all. And of course, in the kind of investments which we have made in various biodiversity elements, whether they are biotic factors or abiotic factors. We know that many businesses directly depend on the biodiversity in India, and many others will indirectly depend, but I don't think there will be any business in India which do not depend on biodiversity one or the other way. Happy to see actually that increasingly companies are recognizing the importance of incorporating climate change, sustainability, biodiversity considerations into their decision-making process, and engaging with the stakeholders to develop more sustainable, business models. I know globally, and my colleagues are here, which are much more knowledgeable than me in this field, will surely appreciate that globally, when we see, the kind of media coverage and all, we know that there are big companies who are really making a huge difference. And I come from FMCG sector, but I can certainly, sort of cite few names like Unilever, like Nestle, like P&G, like, who are making a big deal of sustainability and biodiversity management in global sector. But I'm very happy that in India also, many of the corporate houses are coming very forward and, have been doing great work for last 2 decades, at least I would say. And while I will not be able to, say the enlist what are all the companies in India who are doing really great job, but I would certainly mention few companies like Tata, and I've been interacting with the Tata Strategy for almost a decade, and I'm witness to some of the great work they have been doing in terms of the business and biodiversity and sustainability. The ITC, for example, have been doing a great work in terms of integrating the farmers and then taking care of their, biodiversity management. Unilever, I've been working for Unilever. I worked for Unilever 16 years before joining Coca Cola 4 years back, and I know the kind of, the instructions which we used to have from leadership at that time, that, so much so that the leadership at that time used to tell that there is absolutely no other way of doing business unless you integrate the sustainability and biodiversity into all your business programs. So that's the kind of instruction which used to come from global leadership and the local leadership. Then, of course, the companies who are like cement, who are in mining, they are doing great job. Even companies who are in banking sector are doing great job. And we will hear at least 4, if not 5 cases today afterwards. But I think, the kind of history we have created for last 10 years, both from industry and from government, is certainly, we need to be proud of. I will just give a very brief 2-3 minutes perspective on Coca-Cola, since I represent Coca-Cola as well, that what is the kind of work we have been doing on biodiversity and sustainability. And then I will invite my colleagues who need to speak today. So at Coca-Cola, we largely manage biodiversity into 3 aspects. One is basically our, I'm covering both biotic and abiotic factors. First is the water conservation. As you can see that we are heavily on water uses, and we have 2 big programs in water. One is reduce, one is replenish. In reduction, the main intent is basically how less water we can use to create 1 liter of our beverage. And I'm very happy to say that there have been consistent reports. In fact, we had to close some of our bottling units in the past because we couldn't manage the kind of water conservation we wanted to do, and we didn't want to go to an extent where the water is depleting underground, and therefore we stop the plant. But just to give you a perspective, between 2010 and 2021, we have reduced consistently 34% of water uses for converting or for making 1 liter of beverage available for the consumer. And I think it's quite significant, achievement. Whether we have stopped, we cannot further reduce. Of course, there are opportunities, because as the technology changes, as the resources changes, we keep on reducing it. I'm pretty hopeful that in coming years, we will be able to make that 34% even bigger. So that's our reduce part. In replenish part, we have for last 20-25 odd years, we have roughly around 500 projects on the community water where we operate them through NGOs and through other partners, and they are almost in 29 or 30 states. We are active for last several decades, several years, and that's another impact which we are making in terms of the water conservation and rather creating the potential for harvesting the water. So this is about water. Then the second thing is we have a huge program called Unnati, which is our fruit circular economy. Here the idea is how can we train our farmers so that they integrate and they start in their horticulture, their agriculture in a way that is not using too much of pesticide, making the water available, or use the water in a very sustainable way, use the land use in a very sustainable way. How can we increase their productivity, on reducing the land use and all. So all those aspects we have been working under our fruit circular economy. And I think I have numbers somewhere around 3.6 lakh people got benefited. All of them are farmers. They got benefited through our Unnati program. Just to give you a perspective, we are active in mango because it is also our business requirement. We are the biggest mango-based drink manufacturer in India. Maaza is our brand, and therefore we started it from mango, many years back in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra, MP, and Odisha. And for orange in Maharashtra and MP, for apple in Uttarakhand, J&K, and Himachal Pradesh, for lychee in Bihar, for grapes in Tamil Nadu, for coffee in Karnataka. And now we started it for sugarcane in UP, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. So that's the kind of impact we are making. But obviously, considering the enormous number of farmers, considering agriculture being the foremost, economic factor, I don't think it's substantial. It's very less. And when many more hands will have to be joined together to make a difference in future. So then the third part comes where we have made a significant improvement, and here we have partnered with the government also for last 3-4 years, where we could make a policy change in terms of recycling of the PET. So as you know, we are the biggest user of PET in India. Thankfully, almost 91% of PET is anyway recycled. The only ways it is right now, it is being recycled in a very linear way. For example, the shirt I'm wearing and most of you wearing your fabrics, there is certain percentage of polyester. That polyester is being made from recycled PET. And more fabric we see in the market today, or shoes or bags, umbrellas, they are all mainly coming from recycled post-consumer use PET. But what is happening is that fabric, that pillow, that fiber, that umbrella is not coming back for recycling. It is going into the water bodies, it is going on the environment. And that's what the linear use of PET is there. What we wanted to work with the government, and thankfully now Ministry of Environment has mandated at least 30% of recycled plastic in packaging across the sector by 2025. But we have been working with government for almost last 3-4 years. We had 4 different regulations which were prohibiting use of recycled plastic in food packaging. And rightly so, because 40 years back, 30 years back, we did not have technologies in the world where we can recycle the PCR plastic and then still make it food grade packaging. But today we have. Europe is doing it for last several years. Americas and Canada and Australia are doing it for last several years. We have technology coming from Europe where you can create exactly like virgin PET from the recycled PET. And therefore, for last 2 years, I'm very thankful that Ministry of Environment, Food Safety Authority, and Bureau of Indian Standards have all amended their prohibitory regulations and made them like enabling regulations. And very soon, maybe another 2-3 months, you will see in market some of the PET manufacturers coming with the recycled PET, recycled PET bottle. And that's where probably the time will come when our dependence on the virgin PET will significantly come down, and the recycled PET will make a sort of recycled economy. So I think these 3 things are quite significant. Of course, it will take some time where we can really make a significant dent in terms of the environmental impact, but these are some of the initiatives. So I would stop here and now invite Ms. Renika Grover, who is Head of Sustainability and Corporate Social Responsibility, Apollo Tyres, to give her views. And Asim, will it be fine if we give 10 minutes to each, and then maybe so that we have some time at the end for question and answers? Is that fair?
Sure, Dr. Dob.
Yeah. So Renika, all yours, and you have around 10 minutes.
Sure. Greetings to everyone. Thank you, Dr. Dobrial. I totally agree with you that there is a huge correlation of business and biodiversity. So I have a little small presentation starting with some kind of a grim picture, but eventually talking about what Apollo is doing in the field as well. So before I start, let me just share my screen, and I will leave the viewers with one of our AVs as well. So I think in all likelihood, I would be taking less time than usual. So, but just before that, please let me know if my screen's visible.
Yes, it is.
Oh, great. So when we talk about biodiversity, I mean, as I said, I'd start with a little bit of a grim picture, because we've been talking about climate change, and there's this huge thing about climate change recently in terms of global warming. And there was this recent study which spoke about that we're trying to curtail to 1.5 degrees, but there's this new study which says in the next 5 years, we will be breaching that 1.5 degrees as well. So that is kind of really alarming, because when we talk about this, it's catastrophic, because there is already, when we're looking at across the world, we have fires, we have floods, we have heat waves, and that eventually is going to be a huge loss to biodiversity as well. And that's what it talks about, building back biodiversity from agreement to action, because what's happened in the Montreal framework. So what I had in the slide was talking about loss of biodiversity. So where exactly the huge cost? I mean, that's just some facts that I stated over here before moving on to what the businesses are doing. Huge basically talks about deforestation as one of the biggest causes. And then, there's 10 million hectares of forest lost every year. That's great. But what happens is there is replantation of that 5 million hectares as well. But when we're looking at overall loss of 5 million hectares, it's huge. And here, when we talk about India per se, we are the second highest rate of deforestation after Brazil. So that's still quite alarming. And what does it do basically when we're looking at deforestation? Of course, there is huge deforestation that's happening. It's causing massive amount of CO2 emissions as well. And that's what it says is about 5 billion tons of CO2 that's added, which is about 18 to 20% of the GHG emissions total. So that's where it's causing us. And that's something it's absolutely an alarming thing that we need to look at, which impacts the loss of habitat, because obviously you have climate change, you have there is heat waves, and that eventually causes loss of habitat, which earlier was positioned at 19%, but now the new study reports that it's about 23% of the habitats by the end of the century would be lost. So that's a huge loss to our ecosystem, leading to the extinction of species. And that's where we are talking about survival of 1 million species. So these are huge in terms of what's the cause and what the loss is going to be to our ecosystem, because all of this, when we link it in terms of monetary side, is linked to, the GDP is linked to nature, and that's a given, because more than half of the world's GDP can be linked to nature. And there's a very interesting factual information over here, which was also discussed at length at COP27. COP27, there were like these 5 objectives, and one was nature. And the one first objective, nature, was basically looking at protecting ocean ecosystems, because there was this talk about the moment the temperatures hit about 2 degrees, there will be a decline of 99% of the coral reefs. And that's where it's a huge livelihood for Egypt. And that's what the biggest concern for them was. So it just talks about, yes, we have had, we've spoken about lots of conversations around agreements, but it just requires to be, taking some action now, because if biodiversity is lost, just replanting of trees is not going to be sufficient. It's not going to be enough to kind of sustain those ecosystems. And I would say that not everything is anonymous. With that, sorry, not everything is anonymous. Basically, I just kind of try to portray a very dystopian world, but there is work that's happening. So we've had this REDD plus, there was a huge amount of work. But lately, when we talk about the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework that was adopted by 196 countries, so there is work that's happening in relation to making sure that the ecosystems are there and not letting them go. So there are 4 goals overall 23 global targets. And of course, this is something which supersedes the Aichi targets, which were something that the countries had initially set up, and that did not go very, very well because of the lofty aspirations, so to speak, or the targets were not very clear. But now, once all the 196 countries, like last December, they've agreed and they've come together, and that these 4 goals, which talk about that the extinction rate should be reduced tenfold, the current decline should also be restored, the monetary and non-monetary benefits, when we are talking about that, is also something which is shared fairly and equitably amongst the indigenous people and communities. And of course, the most important thing which people have been talking about is the finance gap of 700 billion per year. So these are the 4 global targets against which their goals, where their targets are set up, and the onus is on countries to kind of emulate them and take it forward in terms of how they would be reporting. And that's where there's a lot of conversation now, that from agreements to action, now there is going to be your more robust reporting, which will link into the overall reports of countries. And if we talk about how it cascades down to the industry, is something that we're seeing there is a lot of traction, which you also spoke about earlier, when we spoke about biodiversity, it was more or less something that was not understood as much as what it's understood now. So I just thought I would kind of highlight very briefly in terms of what Apollo's been doing in the last few years. For us, biodiversity is a global theme, and it is not only linked to our CSR initiatives, but it's also speaking about what we're doing in Europe, in Netherlands, and in Hungary, because it is a global theme. So before I talk about some of the projects, and I'll just leave the audience with one of our projects, AV, thought I'd highlight in terms of overall, and I was talking about climate change, water conservation that you highlighted as well. We have been working in this space. For us, reduction of emission is absolutely of paramount importance. So there is this huge emphasis on not just moving away from fossil fuel, but it's also increase of renewable energy, looking at energy efficiency. So how overall emissions can be reduced. And that's one of the things we've made. We've taken aspirations and commitments globally for reduction of emission. For water also, overall, as an organization, we've been working, and we have taken a commitment of looking at water withdrawal intensity improvement by 25%, so with baseline years. So in addition to whatever work as an organization we're doing in the sustainability ambit, because sustainability is one of our key pillars for our Vision 2026, there's certain initiatives we've undertaken within India as well. And here, I just want to highlight one of those, which is mangrove conservation. We've been working in the mangrove conservation space for the last 5 years, 6 years rather, and it's mainly in Kerala. And basically, why mangrove conservation? Because there's like huge carbon sinks, and of course, the sequestration is 4 times more than of carbon than the usual rainforest. So that's one of the reasons, and these are the catalysts basically along the coastal areas. So that's one of the areas we've started to work, because all our plants are based out of the coastal areas as well. So without talking much into it and just being conscious of the time, I just have a 2-minute AV, which is on mangrove conservation, that I like to leave the users with. And if there are any questions, I'll be very happy to answer that.
In the quaint village of Kunyimangalam, situated in the northern coastal part of Kannur district in God's own country, Kerala, work starts early. Fishing offers a livelihood and food to many of the villagers. This village gains prominence because of the presence of the unique ecosystems there. The mangroves, or locally called Kandalkar. Fishermen like Balakrishnan depend on fishing for both food and their livelihood since childhood. The mangroves offer a great hiding place for fishes and help them grow in abundance. Mangrove forests have faced considerable degradation, mostly owing to human intervention. Eco-conscious growth is central to the strategy at Apollo Tyres Limited. The organization works dedicatedly on biodiversity conservation within its environment theme. Mangroves protect the landscape from natural disasters like tsunami and high tides. They are a fertile landscape and account for large amount of carbon sequestration.
You know, in the interest of time, I think I'll let it be, because I just wanted to get a bit of a bird's eye view in terms of what our work in Kerala is. So we'd be very happy to share the link. But last, just wanted to say that there is a huge amount of partnership work that's required in biodiversity. And that is one of the emphasis and focus areas for us going forward. And we've had lots of discussions with FICCI. We'd be very happy to look at it, because when we're looking at sustainable development goals, one of the key goals is number 17, which talks about partnerships. So on that note, I think I'll just unshare my screen and also let other speakers take stage, please.
Thank you, Renika. Thank you so much. And maybe you can send the link to FICCI Secretariat so that they can circulate to all our audience also. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So maybe we will take the questions at the end, and let's finish all the speakers, and then we'll invite the questions. So with this, may I invite Mr. Raju Kapoor, who is Director Public and Industry Affairs, FMC India Private Limited, to share his views. And if you have any presentation, you may please share your screen as well.
Unmute.
And
Okay,
again, at the cost of repetition, maybe if you can just finish your talk within 10-11 minutes, that will be great.
definitely, sir. I'm host. I have a screen sharing disablement, so if somebody could enable.
Sheetal, Shruti, can you help Kapoor sir?
Mr. Kapoor, you can share your screen.
Yeah, it's visible now.
Can you see it? Sorry. Is it visible now?
Yes, it is.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you so very much. First of all, thanks a lot for giving this opportunity. We are essentially an agricultural sciences company. We are the 5th largest crop protection company globally. having our head office in Philadelphia, and of course, we are among the top 3 in India as well. Primarily, because I come from agriculture, we have major issues to address, right from need to produce more to feed the ever-increasing population, need to produce more with less. As the resources deplete, whether this be water resource or soil resource or everything, the necessity to have safer food chain, protecting biodiversity, supporting farmers, and also addressing the key challenges that happen from the crop losses. In order to have a sustainable farming, we clearly are addressing these big ticket challenges, and the imperatives for us clearly become to have products and solutions which are safer to the environment, have a better cost benefit ratio, and resource smart. So what do we do as an organization? This is our corporate head office. We work on chemistry, new mode of actions. We work on advanced biologicals. So these are biological products that come and control the pests. We do pest surveillance, so through precision agriculture and otherwise also. We are able to leverage the space sciences or the data sciences and the digital technologies to kind of come back and reduce the load of crop protection interventions on the crops, thereby reducing the overall impact that could happen. Also, using stuff like drones, we are able to meet larger areas that can get covered with lesser effort, thereby saving the farmers and people who are spraying pesticides, saving them the challenges. Product stewardship is one major issue where we say that our product must be used only when it is a must. It must be used in combination with biologicals, etc., so that we are able to provide a long-term sustainable objective. In terms of our social footprint in India, I think we today have set up 77 water filtration, community water filtration plants. These are feeding something like 120,000 farmer families in 7 states. There's a massive COVID relief operation that we have done, which is now over, but it ranges from putting up the oxygen plants to running campaigns in the rural areas where nobody was going. Similarly, developing good agricultural practices, such practices where the farmer is able to grow more with less, with the least impact on the environment. Project Madhu Shakti is one that I'm going to be talking a little bit more today, but I'll come to that. Empowering women in agriculture is very important. Once the women are a major source in agriculture, once they become competent and conscious, I think much of the biodiversity issues also get taken care of. And apart from it, we promote science among the youth. This is Project Madhu Shakti. Madhu, as you know, is honey. Shakti is tree, in my opinion. So empowering women through training them on enhancing the number of pollinators. As we are aware, right, 3/4 of the global crops are dependent on pollination. So that if you want to have food, most of the food which originates from vegetarian sources needs pollinators to move forward. This project essentially is aimed at addressing some of the challenges like low farm productivity, a lower farmer's income, dwindling resources, status of women, etc. So we have said that we will possibly move forward. So the third one, which is about safeguarding the pollinator population. As you can see here, there's a lot of talk that goes on. I mean, some of it is myth, some of it is reality, but most of it is myth. So we have now executed one program. The program, the idea was, could we have an industry academia partnership to solve the real core hardcore issues? The real hardcore issues are, how do we promote sustainable agriculture with optimal amount of interferences or input usages? How do we enhance farmers' income? Because If you don't enhance their income, they will go and certainly overexploit the ecology. Similarly, how the product must be used in the safe and judicious manner. How do you protect the pollinators and how do you enhance biodiversity, the whole thing? So we have done this wherein we have in Uttarakhand, this project is currently going on in Uttarakhand, and yesterday was the day before was the World Honeybee Day. So we had a major program there. What we are doing there is, again, as you can see here, there are large number of women who in Uttarakhand do not get to earn. I think Coca Cola, since you're running a project there, I thought I'll point it out to you also, because for apples to grow in Uttarakhand, you would need a lot of pollinators, which are not in many number. So what we are doing is basically bringing in the training to these women in apiary, in bee rearing, right? So once they're able to grow honeybees and draw honey-based products, so these women will then become master trainers, and these master trainers will continue to then train 10 women each, and the chain shall continue. What we are also doing is that after we have given them a full training at G.V. Pant University in the Central Apiary Research Center, which is possibly the best in the country, we are then sending them back to their villages. In the villages, we are assuring them that there will be a value chain approach taken, which means all the honey that they produce, there will be a assured buyback and branding, and then consumers will get that. We have formed a special revolving fund for this, and this project will very clearly monitor how do the pollinators behave. You know, what happens is normally if there is a foraging time for the bees, and if you start spraying pesticides, it's highly likely that they may get damaged. So can we develop a model or a module, if I may call it, or a prototype that ensures that there is a productivity enhancement for the farmers? Because the more there is more, if I may call it, more pollination, the productivity is going to be higher. Higher the productivity, the production is going to be higher for the farmer. So the farmer in whose field bees forage will have a higher crop. Number two, the women who are rearing bees will have higher income. Number three, the larger ecosystem will become more aware that they need to protect the biodiversity, and hence it will move forward. Number four is, for the production to grow up, we need a lot of use of what we call as intensive agriculture, right? So intensive agriculture is all about using various tools, including agricultural inputs, whether they be fertilizers or they be pesticides or they be plant nutrients, etc., all of those to be used. So how do we kind of develop a module that farmers can continue to have intensive agriculture so that they draw maximum out of their farming activity, while simultaneously have the least amount on the biodiversity or the ecological diversity or the environmental balance, right? So this is the whole idea. So we promote these good agricultural practices among those farmers. This project is very unique, that this is possibly the only project in the country, maybe one of the very few projects globally. So if this project succeeds, which we are very hopeful, this is a 3-year project. If it succeeds, this will become a format for many developing nations to adopt, so that they can enhance their crop productivity using agricultural inputs, while simultaneously protecting the honeybees or the pollinators or the biodiversity. These are some of those important tools of this whole thing, where training and skilling is a major part. Then providing them the essentials, then providing them processing facilities, branding and marketing capabilities, and then pollinator safety, and then communication. Communication is a big deal, right? Because most of the time you don't even know what you are eating. So everybody says, "Shahad kha rahe ho to chini kha rahe ho." People add duplicate shahad, ye hai, wo hai. So we try to look at how do we create uh, traceability from the woman who's growing this honey, who's producing this honey, to the consumer who's eating this honey. Apart from it, of course, we are developing various other honeybee apiary-based products, like it can be pollen, honey pollen, it can be propolis, it can be so many. I mean, the n number of products, very interesting products. So the idea here is that if we are able to make this success, and coming from a pesticide making company, this is very interesting, right? Because normally we are associated with people who kill biodiversity. Here we are, where we prove that we not only preserve biodiversity, but we also enhance it as well. The other interference which I had shared up in the beginning is the technologies that we bring out are very, very environmentally conscious and sustainability enhanced. So all our products are essentially either they are green labeled, they have much softer. I would not say they are safer, but they are much softer on the ecology. Idea, what we have learned essentially is that we need to build credentials for this whole industry, because in India today you lose crops worth 2 lakh crores to pests, right? 2 lakh crores every year without fail. And the usage is about 1/20th of what US would use, the pesticide usage. Thereby, there's a massive loss to the crops. But because of these campaigns around organic and all that stuff, what is happening is that the crop losses continue to grow significantly. So we want to partner the credible agencies, then make these modules and take it to the industry at large first, and then to all the state governments and the global governments to see how together we can resolve this issue, right? So let me just thank you here and look forward to some of your questions if you have any. There's a lot that can be discussed around sustainability, but let me just stop here and look for your intervention.
Thank you, Mr. Kapoor. Very lucid aspect, and absolutely agree. You know that the lack of pollinator is really creating. I mean, will become a big issue if we don't take care of that. Yeah. So with this, maybe I will invite Dr. Jamil Hussain from Tata Steel Limited to share his views. But Daksa, before I invite you, also let me put on record the contribution of Tata Group actually for FICCI Environment Committee. I know R. Mukundan used to chair our environment committee for several years. He's the CEO of Tata Chemicals. And then now for several years, Mukund Rajan is chairing our environment committee in FICCI. And Mukund again happens to be somebody from ex-Tata executive, though he's not associated with Tata now, but happens to be from Tata Group. So thank you so much for Tata Group actually for taking care of environment committee in FICCI for almost a decade. And with this, Mike is yours.
Thank you very much, sir, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to speak on a topic. And I'm thankful to the previous speakers because they have already set the stage. So I will not spend much time in explaining why we are conserving the biodiversity. I will not take much time to explaining the COP15. May I request someone to share my slides? So the world is talking about building back the agreement, and it is something that, yeah, let's put on the full screen. Can we go to the next slide? So in the next 10 minutes, I will try to explain some of the key highlights that how the COP15 is aligned with the businesses and what the businesses can do and what the Tata Steel has done. For the paucity of time, I will also use a video which is more descriptive in nature. It is within 5 minutes. You will know the last 100-year journey of biodiversity, what we have done. I will also talk about that how the businesses can take the actions. Although it is a part of the individuals, that the how individuals are important for taking some of the action, but there are some of the communication which has come from the United Nations quite interesting. So slides are there. I share the slide pack with the FICCI team, so that can be shared with the participants as well. Can we go to the next slide, please? So it is a very important that now last 3 decades we are celebrating the Biodiversity Day. The reason is clear that the 25% global animal and plants are threatened to go. We are having about 8.5 billion species on this Mother Earth. 1 million species are about to extinct. The reason of the talk is from agreement to action. Many times there are blames that these COPs are not actionable. We all remember the COP21 because of climate actions. That was the first time the world came together to reduce the temperature of the Mother Earth. And the COP15, which happened in Montreal in December, and that has come similar kind of success and the story to tell the world that we are very much serious to bring back the biodiversity. And it is a reason that the topic is build back biodiversity from agreement. So there are about some of the actions which need to be undertaken on the ground. I'm happy to tell that many of the responsible corporates like Tata Steel has taken these actions way back since 1902. Can we go to the next slide? So this is the story of Tata. You perhaps seen this message from Jain Tata several times. He has written to his son very clearly, be sure to lay wide street planted with shady trees. So this is a communication which he has given in 1902 to his son Dorabji, and he wants to use the quick growing plants so people can get the shade. There must be a space, lawn, gardens, and all this, whatever we are doing, this is inbuilt in our philosophy of achieving the no net loss of biodiversity. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a very famous picture. Before this picture, we always sharing the picture of COP21, the Paris Agreement, that the world come together to reduce the temperature of Mother Earth less than 1.5 degree. Recent IPCC report has indicated that whatever we are doing, it cannot be achieved until and unless we will having a nature-based solution. And this is a good opportunity for all the professionals like me, the responsible companies, to build a momentum within our organization, build a momentum within the businesses, build the momentum on the platform like FICCI, that how much important is the biodiversity now for reducing the temperature. There is a strong linkages between climate change and the biodiversity loss. Can we go to the next slide, please? So I will not spend much time. There are 23 targets which need to be achieved by 2030 for overarching target for 2050. There are many times people talking that the 2050 is one of a abruptly chosen date. No, it is not. There is a significant amount of research has been put together. There is a paper published in Nature in 2011, which has indicated that climate change is happening very, very fast. It is unprecedented. The biodiversity loss is unprecedented. The mankind will be crumble by 2050 if we are not taking corrective action. And this is the reason why the world is talking or chasing 2050. Can we go to the next slide, please? So there are a couple of overarching 20 target. One of a very important is 30-30. So this is by 2030, we need to achieve 30% of the world land initially, which we have lost. We are losing about 27,000 equal to the football ground forest every minute. We are losing about 88,000 square kilometer of a forest every year. We have lost about 85% of the wetlands in last 300 years. These wetlands are the kidney for the Mother Earth. These forests are the lungs for the Mother Earth. Now you can correlate yourself, or I'm correlating myself. If my kidneys are not functioning, if my lungs are not functioning, I cannot survive for a longer duration. And this is the story of the biodiversity loss. We need to cut global food wastage in half. So it is another global target of the COP15. Can we go to the next slide, please? Ensuring the mobilizing the budget $200 billion per year by 2030 for biodiversity related funding sources from public and private. Gender equality is very important. Empowerment to the women, education to the girls, so we can get some good result. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is the world is doing, and what is the story about the Tata? The important aspect we have initiated the modern or the next phase of this biodiversity journey in 2013 when we have a partnership with IUCN, International Union for Conservation Nature. They helped us to identify what are the issues, how we can deal with them, and they helped us in drafting this policy with the help of stakeholders. We come to the conclusion how to achieve the no net loss of biodiversity. And the crux is avoid the unacceptable impact, reduce the impact that may occur, restore the impacted ecosystem, and seek the additional opportunities wherever it is possible. So this is the biodiversity policy. We are the first in the country who came with the biodiversity policy in 2016. Can we go to the next slide, please? So the strategy is very simple. Just we have integrated the biodiversity in our business plans. We have put a very strong governance structure in 2019. We have established the Center of Excellence for Biodiversity. So regular basis, monthly, quarterly, it can be reviewed by the senior leadership. It can be presented before the board, and it can also help us to get the support from the senior leadership once we are talking about it. Enhancing the coverage of the sites. So we have identified 37 sites. As on date, we have completed 15 sites. And the most important thing that identify the project and implement them. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the initiatives. Those who know about Tata, they talked about it. It is a Jubilee Park inaugurated by Prime Minister Nehru. Once the Tata Steel has completed the 50 year of its establishment, we are having a zoo. The Juk Sulai Magdam, you can see from this picture, a Magdam has converted into a lavish green park. Can we go to the next slide, please? These are again the restored mined out area, restored urban spaces into some beautiful parks. You can go our website, you can go our YouTube channel, and you can find some more detail about these initiatives. Can we go to the next slide? So again, it was the Delma Viewpoint you are seeing. It was a municipal waste dump which has converted into a beautiful park. You can see a dirty pond which has been converted into a very unique water body. It is providing the 83,000 kiloliter of rainwater. And we got some of the awards also for these initiatives. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some initiatives: the botanical garden, the butterfly park, medicinal plant park, the eye view of the Jubilee Park. Can we go to the next slide? So now it is not too late for all of us. We can build back the biodiversity. There are some very small actions. There are 22 actions which the business can take. So very important thing is take some of the initiative to conserve the wildlife, endorse the environment causes, participate in such kind of a forum the FICCI is organizing, raise awareness, and definitely celebrate the biodiversity. So these 22 things, if we are incorporating, definitely we will build back the biodiversity. Can we go to the next slide? This is for the individual, how the individual can contribute. So go paperless, reduce your carbon footprint, learn, refuse, travel sustainably, and again, celebrate the biodiversity. So as an individual, we can participate. As a business, we can conserve the biodiversity. And I think this is my last slide. Can we go to the next slide? So these are my contact details. If you need any clarification or any question, I will be happy to respond. If I'm having some time, I request Chair to allow me to run a video. This is just a 4-minute video.
Okay, let me ask Asim how much time we have left, and then we can decide. Asim, quickly, how much time we have left for the day?
Dr. Gabriel, we have 35 minutes for the webinar.
Okay, so maybe we have time for, okay. Dr. Hussain, you can quickly.
Yes, so I request your team to run. I pasted in the chat box. Sheetal or someone, please play the video.
So Dr. Sen, can you reshare that link with us?
Give me a second. Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Saab, if you allow, then by the time you share, maybe we can start with the Mr. Limdi, and then maybe at the end of the, oh, it's there. Okay, go ahead.
Please put the volume on.
I think the volume is on, but I think the audio is not.
I think it need to be shared with the audio, so it can be.
Therefore, concern for biodiversity and sustainable mining is not new to us at Tata Steel.
Then it will help audience to understand clearly.
The company acquired the Bhelatan colliery of Jharia division in Jain Tata did not just live, think and plan for India in the abstract. He thought of India in terms of people, its land, its assets and its resources. The diverse and dense green cover around Tata Steel's mining locations, nurtured for over a century, include a dazzling variety and richness, which reflects the promise made by Jain Tata. Therefore, concern for biodiversity and sustainable mining is not new to us at Tata Steel. The company acquired the Bhelatan colliery of Jharia division in 1910, and then from 1916 onwards, its iron ore mines and other collieries. Located across the states of Jharkhand and Odisha, these mines and collieries with the company's manganese and chromite mines comprise its raw materials division. From inception, these locations adopted reclamation and reforestation programs. In the 1980s, Tata Steel initiated scientifically engineered afforestation across 125 acres of Hill Number 1 in Noa Mundi, becoming the torch bearer for biodiversity management in the Indian mining industry. With changes in economic policies in the 1990s, Tata Steel envisioned a growth plan, and naturally, expansion of our raw material facilities was a part of it. Conscious of our legacy and responsibility towards biodiversity, as we developed future mining plans, we determinedly embedded biodiversity management in them. A baseline survey of the flora and fauna formed the basis for our action plans and the way forward. Always a pioneer, in 2016, Tata Steel became the first in the Indian industry to launch a biodiversity policy. This policy of Tata Steel was co-created with its stakeholders, the local communities, making biodiversity management a collaborative process owned and deployed by all. Our actions under our Biodiversity Management Plan, which we initiated with IUCN as a partner, have been carried forward, are aligned to international and national targets and goals. Tata Steel's biodiversity initiatives have led to the creation of suitable habitats for local flora and fauna, eco-restoration of mined-out areas on a large scale, with the plantation of native species, transplantation of trees from operational areas, and disbursement of seed balls. Currently, an area of 563 hectares is being covered via afforestation. We have restored old ponds and constructed new ones to support aquatic life. Rainwater harvesting parks and reservoirs have been created with the potential to store a total of 12.38 million cubic meters of water. Progressively, about 1,000 hectares of land has been reclaimed. To increase our bird population, 1,600 artificial bird nests or niche nests have been installed across all the mining locations, while butterfly parks in several locations have already enhanced their population. Leading the Confederation of Indian Industry to recognize Tata Steel for its excellence in biodiversity. As part of our collaborative approach, local communities are constantly apprised and educated via awareness programs. Children are a key target group, with the Green School project being conducted in schools across our locations in collaboration with TERI. Never content to rest on its laurels, Tata Steel remains at the forefront of managing biodiversity. Our promise of 100 years to our land, our earth, our communities, and our biodiversity spans the past, the present, and the future.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hussain. Thank you for your nice
welcome.
presentation and ending with the video here. I know, I mean, it takes humongous effort actually to create these kind of projects. So thank you so much for that. With this, I assume Ms. Anupam Nidhi is not available still, so I will just go to Mr. Harsal Limdi. So Harsal Limdi, all yours. Harsal Limdi, General Manager and Head of Environment and Biodiversity at JSW Group. So maybe you can take 10-12 minutes, and then so that we have at least 10-15 minutes for the questions.
Sure.
All yours.
Thank you. Asim, can you allow me to share my screen, please? All right. Just confirm if my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, and very good evening to all of you. I'll quickly take you through some of the key initiatives as far as JSW is concerned in the area of biodiversity, our strategies, our success stories, and how are we planning to progress. As far as our strategy is concerned, JSW Group has 17 focus areas, having 11 areas from environment, 5 from social, and 2 from governance. Biodiversity is certainly one of the key ESG focus areas from environment side for us. As far as biodiversity goes, our strategy is really simple, if I may say in 3 sentences. Our aim is to implement JSW standard on biodiversity. We are collaborating among our business units with the help of different working groups around biodiversity to track the progress, share the learnings, and bring the awareness within the group. And finally, I think for us, the key is to have integrated approach for biodiversity, climate change, water and pollution. We being in the steel, we are really energy intense sector. Even for water and fugitive emission, we are one of those detrimental sectors as far as biodiversity is concerned, and that's why we really want to integrate biodiversity to some of these other challenges which we face. As far as target is concerned, JSW has committed to achieve no net loss by 2030. In the following slides, I'll try and quickly take you through success stories and what are our plans to achieve those public commitments which we have made. As far as our success stories are concerned, we have biggest steel plant in India, Vijayanagar. There we have planted around 17 lakhs plus trees, which resulted into significant improvement in our Shannon diversity index and species evenness index compared to our baseline numbers in 2020. We have also done for afforestation of degraded forest around 432 acres. Another big site for us is Dolvi, where we are located along the coast of Maharashtra. There we have actively participated with the local regulatory bodies to do plantation of 3.5 lakhs mangroves in 70 hectares, in which has really resulted into reduced flooding risk for the site and also reduced soil erosion, and certainly the fishermen community around got benefited because of some of these initiatives. I think one of the very close to our heart is Barmer. This site is located in sand dunes of Rajasthan. So you can imagine the kind of landscape we have there. We have achieved overwhelming 39% plus green belt there with an aim to ensure that we improve, enhance ecosystem services as far as air quality, carbon sequestration, nutrients, recycling, runoff control, noise reduction, and biodiversity protection. We have 166 fauna species there. The numbers are there for you to read, but I think the really important one is that we support through our various initiatives conservation of 7 IUCN rate species and certainly 15 number of WPA Schedule 1 species. As far as Tarapur, this is one of the very small site located in MIDC area of Tarapur, which is very close to the urban establishment of Palghar. Now there we have introduced Miyawaki plantation method and developed Miyawaki Park there. Around 1,500 saplings have been planted, and this resulted into I think in the last 3 years we have around 1.5 lakh visitors. That has really improved the awareness in that area. Encourage other industries in MIDC to come forward and collaborate with us as far as some of such initiatives are concerned. And we are taking these initiatives forward in other 5 steel coated plants of JSW. Quickly, our progress, what are we doing now and what is the next plan? We are having 32 manufacturing locations as far as steel, energy, and cement is concerned. So we are taking up detailed study on our understanding our impacts and dependencies on those for those sites, and then once we identify the risk, right now we are working on integrating the same with enterprise risk management framework, making some adjustment in our ERM framework to accommodate some of these risks, and certainly developing KPIs to track NNL. I think while we have committed, but at times it becomes really difficult to convince ourselves, for that matter, that we are making progress in the right direction. And that's why we are putting some effort to develop some KPIs. As far as these KPIs is concerned, we have, while selecting the KPI, we are taking into consideration KPIs related to species, biodiversity, drivers for biodiversity losses are also being considered, species related indicators, and certainly ecosystem services related indicators we are considering to develop a index if possible to give us a tool to see, at least ensure that we are moving in the right direction. What next? Idea is to do the have the biodiversity management plan for high risk sites. We have already done for 2 sites, and in the current financial year, we plan to finish this study for remaining sites, and roll out this KPI for no net loss across all our sites. So hopefully next year, this time around, we will be able to show you some progress, share our experience around, no net loss, and how we move forward. And I think the key, as I told you earlier, for us is to establish the linkages between biodiversity and decarbonization. That really is the focus area. While we try to achieve our climate goals, but I think at the same time, we have to ensure that we don't miss out on our biodiversity goals. So the figure on this diagram on the right-hand side explains our philosophy, wherein, energy, climate, and nature all have their dependencies or linkages with each other. The degradation of any one will certainly impact other two. And our journey is, from moving this outer triangle or red outer triangle to inner triangle, wherein we try to find the sweet spot as far as energy, climate, and nature is concerned. Just to throw some more light around what exactly do we mean here. I think we all agree that climate change has really created huge problem for humanity, the Mother Earth, and certainly thereby the biodiversity which we have. So here while we are working on climate change, we want to make sure that we adopt the right mix of low carbon technologies to meet our energy demand and climate goal demands, but at the same time ecosystem is preserved, biodiversity is preserved. So identifying the energy mix which helps us to achieve both is the key here, which will help us to allocate our finances, decide the appropriate technology, and certainly while doing this, we certainly need to consider social and environmental impacts. So just to what we are right now evaluating or exploring is, for example, if we are considering hydrogen, then is it green or blue? Green is costly now, that is financial consideration, but if we go for blue, then it has its own impact on biodiversity and to what extent it it right now impacts us. So we are trying to use or introduce biodiversity angle while we make some of these decisions around technology, site selection, and certainly sourcing. Should we source, for example, green hydrogen from chloralkali plant, or have an operating plant within our battery limits using water? So some of those kind of decisions while we take, we really want to integrate biodiversity and make some conscious decisions going forward. I think that with this I come to my end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Limde here. So I don't think we have Ms. Anupam Nidhi back. I mean, Asim, can you please help me understand if Anupam is here now with us? No.
No, Dr. Dobrila, I don't think she is able to join
great.
now. Yes.
Great, no issue. So with that, then whatever limited time we have left, maybe we can invite the questions from audience, and maybe we can request them if they can indicate specifically who they are asking these questions to. So back to you, Asim.
Thank you, Dr. Dobrila. So we have a couple of questions coming in. So one is has been directed to Dr. Hussain from Tata Steel. So they are asking, mining sector generally leads to fragmentation of natural forests. Does Tata Group work in the conservation of corridors necessary for the movement of biodiversity? So Dr. Hussain, if you can address the larger audience, although you had answered in private.
Yeah, thank you. So it is absolutely right that the defragmentation happen because of mining and how to stop it. So we are working with a couple of our Indian partners as well as the global partners to strengthening the corridors for the elephants, as well as so now you have seen that 30 by 30. So this is a clear commitment under the COP15 that we must conserve the landscape instead of conserving a smaller area. There must be an approach to enhance the biodiversity in a landscape. So definitely we are working for it. It is difficult, but it is not impossible.
Sure, Dr. Sam, thank you. And if I can direct this question to Mr. Limdi also from JSW, because it's a similar industry.
Yeah. Yes, I think there are some initiatives which Vijayanagar has taken, because we are very close to Swat Bear, wildlife sanctuary. And there we have been working on these lines. Absolutely. So answer is yes.
And one of the questions I think is basically the audience would like to connect with experts like on the distinguished panel. Although that was directed to Tata also. So for their consulting, guidance, and maybe capacity building. So if I can request each of the panelists how sort of they can assist the stakeholders in this, or the common or the civil society, the other stakeholders.
So may I come in, Hishmi? So for the business consultancy, or if someone want to engage as a business partner, so we are having a Tata Steel has started an initiative called Tata Steel Consultancy Services. So you can go to our website and you can contact the team who look after it. So you can write the problem statement. So based on that, we will connect to the teams who are responsible for reclamation, rehabilitation, whatever is the area you are looking the help. So from steel making to biodiversity, you can get all kind of consultancy from that wing of Tata Steel. Nevertheless, you may contact me also if you want any help on sustainability, climate change, and biodiversity.
Thank you, Dr. Sam. So we have one question to Ms. Rinika Grover. Can you just briefly tell us how do you undertake mangrove conservation as seen in your video?
Thank you. So we have various kind of, I would say, specific project strands within this. So overall, when we're talking about mangrove conservation, the most important is the element when we're looking at any kind of project is awareness raising. So that's something goes on the side where we have linked in with public bodies, we have linked in with the panchayats, and we are working with the universities, and also we have an incubation center over there to kind of raise the awareness amongst the communities on mangrove conservation. The other side is the restoration bit where we're looking, because obviously I mentioned about this earlier as well, even with the deforestation or mangrove conservation side of it, when you're looking at replantation, it's not something that's going to just reap benefits immediately. So there is one side of the project activity where we look at restoration efforts, where we engage with communities, and we look at a specific patch of areas within the coastal region where we're looking at restoration. We also have on the side an incubation center where we have restoration efforts, where we have a nursery. We're looking at different species of mangrove, and then looking at replanting them, because obviously when you're looking at a huge restoration piece of work, it doesn't happen straight away. So these are the few things that we do. And most importantly, we try and work with the government on this, the panchayats and the other public bodies who, the forest department, engaging with them in Kerala extensively to make sure that the activities that we are undertaking are cascaded across the other belts within Kerala and across country as well. So these are the various things that we do. And last but not the least is also we try and work with organizations, like-minded organizations who have a similar vision. So we were working with earlier and with Wildlife Trust of India, and now we're working with another agency, but there's some with the Surut Foundation. So this basically all the work is where the agencies have had experience working in a similar sector and can help us, support us, whilst we can help them as well. So it's more about collaboration kind of approach, and that's something I was mentioning earlier as well.
Thank you very much for your detailed response to that. One question is, it's more of a comment that how do you see sustainability in larger perspective for businesses and long-term growth models when we are assuming, I guess, biodiversity in the context, so taking into context. So this is an open question. So Ms. Grover, if you can.
So I would just take one example. So there is, when we're talking about sustainability in larger perspective for businesses, of course, businesses is very, very clear that now we're talking about ESG, and it's taking a lot of prevalence as well. But it's something that we need to be very mindful that, of course, if businesses have to be running in future, you have to be very mindful in terms of a sustainable growth. And one example over here I would take is of natural rubber. So we have a huge reliance when we're talking about our product mix. So our main emphasis and our main raw material over there is natural rubber. And we also know in terms of the growth cycle of natural rubber and the projection rate, the way the growth is going on, there is going to be a huge requirement of natural rubber going in the next few years. So one thing we need to be very mindful is how we ensure that our demand on natural rubber is met, but yet there is this aspect of not letting it impact through the deforestation, because that's what's causing as well. So what we've done is we've joined this global platform for sustainable natural rubber, which is a tire industry led project. So we've not only signed that, but we're also making sure that the rubber that we procure is through the GPSNR platform. It's basically it's through our policies which we make sure that our suppliers adhere to, so that there is no kind of land degradation or deforestation in the act of procuring a natural rubber, and making sure that the labor who's working on it, their rights are protected as well, human rights. So all of that is being taken into account, and that's something looking at from a holistic point of view, not looking at something which is really, really small and saying that, okay, today my business needs are these, I will meet them. It's actually looking at a larger perspective and a futuristic goal in terms of seeing that going forward, I would need to, if I need to increase my business, I will have a huge and a more magnanimous demand on natural rubber, and how I ensure that that's met through the practices that are followed now. So these are some of the things that we've already started to look at and inculcate in our business practices from now onwards. And of course, I already spoke about the other side, which is the emission and the water and waste management, and all those environmental factors are taken into account as well whilst we are looking at our manufacturing cycles when we are producing tires.
And just to add my perspective here, so, considering the population explosion we are seeing, where we are seeing, and also the kind of climate change and the depletion of resources or the limited resources for that ever burgeoning population, I don't think eventually, there will be any other business group, but there will be only two kind of business. One who does the business sustainably, and the other one who will do the business sustainably. I don't think there will be anyone actually left around. Yeah, because that's the kind of huge challenge in front of us. So eventually everybody has to put that long-term perspective of sustainability and integrate that into our businesses. There's no other way. And especially actually earlier, sooner we understand that, better it is in India, because now we are the biggest, the highest populated country in the world, and we have limited resources. So better we understand that.
I think I'd agree with you. Sorry, go ahead.
I say that penny has dropped, I think, for many, and it's a ripple effect, so which we see across businesses taking shape. Yeah. On that note, I'll just mute myself. Please carry on.
No, sorry. No, I would just say, I think we clearly, now that we have these ESG kind of a format to structure our thoughts, but clearly few of the challenges really emanate from the emissions that are happening. And within that emission, agriculture falls into a big category, because you almost contributes quite significantly to that. So sustainability for companies like us in the area of agriculture would be, how do we improve the input use efficiency? So that's one, like if you apply a fertilizer, so what is the use efficiency of that fertilizer? For example, today urea is nitrogen use efficiency is only 27%, right? So the rest of it either goes in the air as a nitrous oxide or something else, or goes down into the soil. So from a purely point of view, environmental point of view, I think product innovations around how the mode of actions of what you do, innovations around, like for example, we are now setting up altogether new business model of, I think we will deliver solutions to farmer on the field. So all he has to do is, something like a Uber app, he has to book a service and we will deliver the service. Instead of saying, okay, I am a pesticide manufacturer, I'll tell him I am a crop manager for you. I will manage your crops, and I'll take a cut of you, of your profit that I make for you. So sustainability is going to drive businesses in very different ways. And large number of, for example, other one that we are working on, I did refer to it very minorly, was precision agriculture, where you say, okay, you don't need to compulsorily use pesticide or fertilizer, but you need to ask the plant, do you need it now? Or how much quantity do you need it? So you have probes, you have the data from the microenvironments, whether the soil microenvironment or the larger environment around the plant. And then you do various calculations to come to something saying, okay, does the plant need any water now? So instead of flooding the fields like we do today, can I just give it a drop, few drops that it needs? Because I don't have water. 85% of the country is all red now in water. So the biggest impact of this global warming, if I may call it, or water scarcity is going to be on agriculture. Once it comes in agriculture, it kind of hits everybody, right? Because food hits everybody. For that matter, agriculture also would be a feedstock for many industries, so it will hit everybody. So that's where I think real challenges lie. How do we grow more from less? That's big challenge because the soils are so responsible agriculture, if I may call it responsible farming, is another big imperative for sustainability, long-term sustainability, which also encompasses biodiversity. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kapoor. I think very wise words there. So I think Asim, whatever questions are left, maybe I suggest if you can just ask those people to send them to the speaker directly, so we can take them on mail. In the interest of time, probably we need to close. Just a couple of points. So first of all, thank you, Renika ji. Thank you, Mr. Kapoor, Mr. Dr. Hussain and Limidi ji. I think wonderful time and really appreciate your time. I'm sure they are learning actually for the audience here. From FICCI perspective, Asim, I feel like, we have just 4 or 5 cases today, but I'm pretty sure there will be 100 other cases, everybody doing in their bits and pieces and all. And that's how actually collectively probably we make a difference. So if FICCI can also take up, a project where we can create those case studies and business and biodiversity, it will help us actually to inform government also what all industry is doing. And probably there is a learning for others also from that. So we can really learn from each other. And second point, I feel we have done, quite a bit for last at least 2 decades in biodiversity from the business perspective. Maybe the next step for all of us is also to see where we can collaborate, because at the end of the day, individually we can do this much. But if 20 companies come together, even if they are in one sector, say FMCG in one sector, mining could be one sector, banking could be one sector, but I think we can do much better when we join hands with each other. So somewhere we need to discuss that debate also. We need to start in trade associations where we can, sort of pool up some of the resources in terms of the talent, in terms of money, and really do special same things actually, but in a much bigger scale where we can make a difference. So with this, I think, let me again thank FICCI actually for organizing this and all our 4 co-speakers here. Thank you so much for your time. Really helps, and we need to have this kind of discussion once in a while. Back to you, Asim.
Thank you, Rajan.
Thank you, Dr. Dobriyal. I think, and all the distinguished panelists on this panel, Mr. Renika Grover, Mr. Raju Kapoor, Dr. Hussain, Mr. Harshal Limdi, for your fantastic insights and this wonderful discussions. And in fact, sort of the panel sort of discussed on the interlinkages between biodiversity and businesses, the challenges which are arising due to impact of businesses on biodiversity, the innovative solutions being created by various types of businesses across the field and for impact mitigation and biodiversity conservation. And lastly, and most importantly, the importance of partnerships between stakeholders for this pertinent issue. So I'd like to thank all the panelists for sparing their valuable time for this webinar. I would like to thank the audience, and I hope they like this webinar and were able to get the much needed insights on biodiversity and businesses for long-term sustainability. I would like to apprise everyone that our 3rd webinar on B4E series will be on harvesting benefits of nature-based solutions for ecosystem restoration. That will be on 5th of June and on the occasion of World Environment Day. And we look forward to your kind presence there. So thank you all and have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.